So we have now just reached 10,000 subscribers on this channel, and I really want to thank everyone who has supported this channel, commented, watched the videos, and subscribed. I really value this. I really value your support. Hello guys, so today I want to talk about a little bit more about like a side of mine that I have been talking about a lot in the videos, and it has to do with sort of just the insecurities and sort of anxieties, both social and related to training as well. I have talked about like training related insecurities, I think, in other videos too, but I will revisit them here and also talk about this more like social side, because I think those of you who have followed this channel from the very start, you can probably notice a big difference to the videos like I did back then compared to what I do now, just in my way of speaking, in my way of being, and basically the whole man is a little bit different, at least. Well, I can personally see like a big change from when I compare myself to those videos back then. And I think this it started from every time back then I had a very hard time actually. Like I had to confess that I had a really hard time making any videos where I had to speak. And this had to do with just simply coming from I guess from a background where I had sort of created this identity for myself, that I felt like I was more like a silent type, and I just felt really bad for standing out, and I didn't like want to be in pictures, I didn't want to be in photos, I didn't want to be in videos. I felt that it's a negative. I had a negative idea about it, and this maybe, I'm not sure like where did I exactly got it, but thinking like back in, for example, my high school days, I was I guess it started from a lot from there, like just being quite silent, and I didn't go on drinking ever. Like had a couple of good friends that I did, talk about and so on, but I wasn't any like popular kid or anything like this. Was just kind of like there on the side in a way. Now when I went to university, things got a little bit better, and I made a lot of friends, and also I think this had a lot to do with just with alcohol as well in the university days, like every week drinking alcohol and stuff like that helped with the socializing and stuff like this. But and then when it came to the point of like making an actual like a YouTube channel and being like out there and presenting yourself, this was a big change, because as I explained, my former identity was like, not be as sort of like silent and as possible, like someone who people don't really notice. So, but I realized that if I really want to share what I know about training, and if I want to do what I do, like coach people and interact with people, then there needs to be some sort of change. Of course, I couldn't make that sort of like psychological change very quickly, like thinking, okay, like I couldn't rationalize it good in my head. I just couldn't do this. Oops. Little dry mouth, some flu is going on. Anyway, so, but what happened, so I started to make these videos, and every time I'm very nervous, I'm talking to the camera, and I don't think I had much insecurity in my English though, although my English is better nowadays. But I felt actually always that I spoke English okay, but it was just more to do with like just being, it doesn't make any sense. It was just based on having the image of myself that I shouldn't be out there, I shouldn't be talking to people. It's just this sort of like a conflict inside my head that caused it, and I had to always like drink like a lot of coffee before I was able to do like a video. I had to have some sort of like this. I had to go like with this horrible speed in my head to. And I was still. The funny thing is that even though I had all the coffee and stuff like this, I was still speaking really slow. Like there were some comments in the videos like, it's refreshing that I'm not your typical like sort of this American guy talking to in these videos, but like could you still like talk a little bit faster, because my speaking was for some reason very slow and it was clumsy. I think that was the thing. I had a wrong idea about my English skills back then. I really thought I spoke English well, but I don't. nowadays, when I'm looking back, I think I wasn't that good good in it. But anyway, so I had to, it it was just like sort of at that point I accepted that this is how it is now. I knew that I needed to make these videos, of course, in order to get better at speaking and just become more comfortable with it. So there wasn't like some psychological magic pill or some sort of mantra or any secret to like getting better at speaking and being more comfortable. I simply just kept doing the videos and yeah, I just kept doing them every time a little bit like I don't want to do this. I'm just still doing it, and over time just it got better, you know. Although I'd say this is one of the reasons why I think it was very slow in the start, was that I actually the drinking, like the coffee drinking and like just because the coffee actually caused some of the sort of anxiety that I have towards like speaking and towards socializing, because for me it had a very strong impact on my body. So I think it really raised my heart rate. I was sweating so much, like I've always sweat a lot, and then coffee just made it like even 10 times worse. And also one thing that people often pointed out in the videos back then, even now sometimes, I was always like, I was constantly like doing this sort of thing with my shoulder and thinking like, do I have some shoulder injury or something? But it was just, I think it was related to having shoulder pain back in the day. But the real reason, I think, was just being so nervous and having this sort of like tendency to do something with my body. Yeah, even when I was like a younger child, I used to have some weird habits that I used to do, even like make some noises. So it just have to do with like being a little bit nervous and uncomfortable in front of the video. And so why I'm even talking about this really is kind of because I think that there are many people also that maybe see their personality, their identity, their being, everything about themselves as something that it's like you can't really change it. This because when I was like doing those things, I understood that I need to be doing, but I didn't see it as something, as a skill that I can develop, that I can become better at. For some reason, it made sense if I trained my body, so I can become better and better and better. In training, my body becomes stronger. But when it came to like this social interaction, I didn't see it as a similar type of skill that you become better at. So what I'd like to the main point in this one is tell you that if you feel like you have these sort of things that you're super anxious about, like performing, like being in front of people or talking or just showing yourself, that it's something that it can be developed just as anything else sort of in your life. And it's, like I said, for me, I didn't find any magic things. Maybe if someone explain these things that I'm explaining here, I think it could have made it better, because then I would have really realized that, okay, I would have had more faith in getting better and understanding that it will really become easier to do it that way. So this is really for those of you who are maybe wrestling with these things and really are getting a lot of like headaches from just doing this type of stuff. But the other advice that I had is actually don't. The sooner you can get rid of all those sort of stimulants, I already took coffee sometimes, like dark chocolate and stuff like that. I think helped. It made it worse, but in the moment I felt like it helped me. But my recommendation is to get rid of all that sort of stuff. Don't take any stimulants. Those actually make it worse, and usually they make the anxiety worse. So this is the weird thing, that when you take something that sort of helps you with the anxiety, in the long term it makes it worse, and you're making the whole thing sort of lengthening the process. And this also comes down to like the social anxiety that people treat with alcohol as well. These things are sort of like they offer you a solution in the moment that you should be able to kind of also naturally, come to, like the feeling that alcohol, for example, gives you a relaxation, feeling more, more calm, more happy, or whatever it might give you. This is something that you should be able to get even without it, you know, in any situation. When you get into a tough situation, a social situation, you always try to make it easier with some sort of substance or drugs. You're never really treating like kind of what is behind things. So for me, a big change was when we went to so the year in Croatia, for example, I was still drinking a lot of coffee, and I was also drinking alcohol every now and then, like beer and stuff like that. But when we went to Malaysia, that is where I stopped drinking coffee, like just cold turkey. Like there is a withdrawal period for me. It was like at least like a month and maybe like 2 months to really feel completely normal. So it's if you really relied along on these things, it will take a while. But it really made a huge difference, I think, in terms of like just not being so anxious, stopping all that stuff. I also stopped drinking alcohol back then, which I think, you know, that's actually a subject for a whole other video, and I think for a podcast maybe with somebody. But so this was kind of the story of my, you know, social anxiety and insecurity. And I'm not saying like I'm nowadays like I don't have any insecurity, I don't have any anxiety. I definitely have, and sometimes I'm super nervous. You know, that it just happens, and I take it as part of life. I accept it, and I've lived with it for a very long time, and I notice that it doesn't break me, and usually there's something good comes out of it. For example, an example of this was when I did the interview with Steve Maxwell in Germany while we were kind of coming off from our travels, like 2-year travels. And when I had to do that interview, I had never done that sort of interview before, or interviewed that caliber person. And going to that interview, I was like, I was so nervous, like whatever, you know, experience. My heart rate was up, and was like, oh no, you know, I'm gonna fail this somehow. Definitely, I'm gonna just lose the words from my mouth or something like this. But I think honestly, I think the interview went pretty well. But this was the next example that I felt really strongly before this. But I just chose that, you know, I'm gonna do it still anyway. And in the end, it actually went much better than what I was kind of expecting. So a lot of times with these insecurities that you have also, and the fears, that they're not really even very realistic, to be honest, and nothing to be like to panic about. And also going back to training and the insecurities that I had related to that, and, you know, the body image and just overall strength, there was also, you know, a certain conflict that kind of causes, like I explained about the social thing. I had a certain image, and you know, it just didn't fit together with the thing that I needed to become, in a way. And so in training as well, like there was at certain point there came this moment where I was very focused on, you know, the lifting and just the numbers, and and also like one of the biggest things that I have was just acquiring these skills, like different sort of calisthenic skills, you know, the body levers, like front lever, back lever, plunges, and like one arm pull-ups and so on. So I had an image where my strength and the image of strength and physical prowess was tied into the amount of weight, and it was tied into the sort of like getting a skill. Sorry. So this caused the conflict when I needed to also change my approach in training, because this sort of training style started to cause my body to break down at one point, and I had a lot of like joint pains and back pain and hip pain and whatnot, the shoulder and all this. But I just couldn't let go of it, because I felt like I'm giving up, you know, all the strength. I'm, you know, giving up my performance and stuff like that. And so here, this was like also this like a huge change in my mind that had to happen little by little, you know, as I started to change my way of training, that I also started to see that this idea of strength that people generally have is completely false. And it also comes from just being insecure and thinking that you need the numbers to somehow be strong, and to get it's always about getting this sort of validation from outside, you know. It's always tied into some sort of external thing that somebody else actually regulates. So you have nothing to really say about it in terms of like how strong do you actually feel and how well do you truly perform. But so it was a very sort of narrow image of strength that I had about the number of weight or having this sort of and this and that skill, and it just came from living in that sort of culture in some of my early training days, where this is what everybody talked about. Everyone was comparing the numbers and trying to get skills, and like this is one of the things that I talk about and criticize, for example, the calisthenics and the modern calisthenics especially, is the fact that they emphasize first and foremost is getting a skill, and this has getting a skill doesn't necessarily have anything to do with your health, with how balanced your body is, and although it has to do with strength, it doesn't necessarily have to do that much with that either, because skill usually also always combines a certain body mechanic used for stats. It's a skill, so it's not pure strength. There's also, it does not respect certain individual features of your body, what kind of genetic makeup you have, and so on and so on. So a number of things, there that kind of just have nothing to really do like real true strength, So you have to always adjust like the image of strength in some ways to yourself and to your unique body type anyway. So starting from this sort of point, it was trying to get that sort of confidence by having these external achievements to show around and show people. And so look, now you should listen to what I say because I can do this skill or this or that skill. But even like thinking like now that I've been coach for years and understanding these things, like the fact that you can do a skill or something like that doesn't tell much of anything at all, whether how much you actually know about training and like what is the level of knowledge that you have, like the deepness of knowledge that you have about the body. And actually I think in some ways I'm very happy that I wasn't able to do those, because that brought me to the sort of road that I'm now, and it brought me the knowledge that I'm now, because I went to search for like different type of ways of training, different methods, and the methods to develop true strength. So this is why I became like much better teacher and actually much better coach, by not being able to do all the sort of fancy and more impressive stuff and just leaving. So I left, I simply left all the sort of gimmick stuff away, and I started to focus purely on the body and the movement of the body. There was the movement training, then there was all the athlete to neck expression training and stuff like that. So just, really led me to the road where we develop these methods now that have the first sort of priorities are your health, your posture, and your performance, and the developing universal strength that actually transfers to everything. So in ways, I think a good way to say this is also that I stopped trying to become a person who's able to do strong stuff, and instead I just chose to become a stronger person overall. So I think the more you grow and the more you mature as a person, and you start to see this sort of like sounds cliche that the strength is sort of very internal and it's inside. Yes, and I do think that of course there's nothing wrong being wanting to be strong. I still want to be strong. I still want to be stronger, so on and so on. But it's more like the fact that the idea that people have about the strength is, like I said, I think it's wrong. Often it's delusional, and it comes from insecurity. It comes from needing a external validation for yourself. And when it is tied up to these things, it usually causes, in the long run, some bad things to happen in your body. Injuries, pains, and this and that, so on. But also at the same time, like this sort of insecurities that I have about training and these false ideas of strength, I think they're so widespread at the moment in the fitness industry, and also like about the body image needing to look in a certain way, in a specific way. And in my case, of course, I have like a six-pack and I have muscles and stuff like that. But also that is like you need to be willing to also sort of lose this idea that you have about the look of an external strength as well. Like I do like my body image, and at the moment I'm very content with it. But for example, there was back in the day I needed to be all the time I needed to be bigger. Just all the time I needed to have like bigger traps or bigger biceps or bigger thighs, and it was very actually, very external way of looking at things and thinking like, now I'm strong when this muscle is bigger, then I'm strong, then I reach a state, or always bigger numbers, always chasing, always reaching this and things, and the fulfillment is not really there. And as I said, it usually takes so much away from your body, from the real actual performance, because when you focus on the external things, you usually always take away from the actual performance and the health of your body, and you just become sort of a little bit broken. So it's important that you break away from these ideas that you get from somewhere else that try to tell you that this is strength and this is not, and if you can't do this skill, then you're not strong and you have no authority here if you can't do this. It's completely senseless, and it's based on the insecurity of these other people who want to push it on you as well. So you need to get rid of this, because when you then that is when you open up sort of this whole big new world of training and developing your body that wasn't there before. Okay, and most likely, there's going to be, on this period, you're going to feel sort of weak, you're going to feel unsure, and this is precisely what a strong person is willing to endure. You're willing to be weak. You're willing to go through this sort of periods of doubting your strength and all this hardship and stuff like that, whatever it is. I think that's a sign of a stronger person, to be able to go through that and accept also weakness in your body. You cannot fix the weakness in your body if you can't face it. And when you think that you're so strong and you're so good and everything, it's a really long drop to really see your body honestly and see all these weak things. Like I just made the video about the cat hold and other exercises as well that just are so simple, yet they reveal so much weakness from the body once you do them. And it's sometimes hard to actually face that, and because you thought that you had this big number, so you needed to be good and strong everywhere. But this is not how the reality works. It's not how training works at all. And I made this because I feel like there are so many other people who, of course, everyone has some anxiety. Everyone has insecurities. And if this helps you to cope with your insecurities and maybe find, because these insecurities, like I said, I think they're so often useless, and they're just keeping you away, and they're making everything harder, because I chose the road where I was like, well, okay, let's just suffer and let's keep going, But I honestly wish I knew some of these things back in the day, and I think it would have made it much easier for me to understand like that there's a process. You go through the process and it gets easier and you get better, and that's how it is, whether it's your social interaction or whether it's the training as well. The training is a very long process, and learning this new image and getting, like, embodying this new idea of strength, it takes a very long time. So all I can say is invite you on this journey with me, where we destroy these insecurities and get truly stronger and evolve as a person. Okay, see you guys and stay strong.